My takeaways from the Stars Blues rewatch: Roope may be back just in time for the Western Conference Finals rematch. Let's talk about it next on Locked On Stars.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105.3 The Fan and play-by-play voice of the Chippewa Steel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Never miss an episode of Locked On Stars. Thank you for making me a part of your day and making this your first listen as well. I hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. And of course, the Stars are 1-0. They did their job on opening night against the St. Louis Blues. They win 2-1 in a very, very entertaining shootout. And with 4 days to kind of chew on this one and looking ahead against the VGK, I also had a long bus trip this weekend. We played our first road game. So I figured I would rewatch the game and just see if it changed my thoughts or if anything else caught my eye. Since we have some time, and of course we'll touch on the VGK here at the end of today's episode too, and a bit about Roope, who practiced fully on Friday with no restrictions. So he looks like he may be set to go for Tuesday. But today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Okay, as I mentioned, I went on our first road trip this weekend, and I had like a 5-hour bus ride. So I was like, I'm going to watch this game again and see what I think, because sometimes seeing a thing for the second time, of course, different things pop out. But I really wanted to take note defensively and see some of the pairings and how those kind of played out. In the first period, I think Lindell played fantastic. We'll start with him. Esa looked really, really good in the first period, and that included a few of the penalty kills. Of course, he's going to get a ton of minutes. Him and Hakanpää have played the most penalty kill minutes in all of the National Hockey League together in the last few seasons, since they've been pretty much inseparable. And of course, they had some time in game 1 too, as DeBoer trotted them out there a few times on the PK. But I thought Esa had a really, really strong start. So did Lundkvist. He was shaky early, but he looked really, really good. He's just so mobile, and it just adds a different dimension that this D-core did not have last year. And if this is what we can get out of him on a more consistent basis this season, the Stars are going to be in really, really good hands. Again, Thomas, Harley, and Hakanpää had their issues. Hakanpää was a bit lost a few times. The play really, really late in the third. It may have not been too late, but I think it was with under 10 to go, and there's a loose puck in the Stars corner, and Harley's going after it, and there's a St. Louis Blue trailing. I can't remember who it was. And obviously Harley's first one on the puck, or at least he's pressuring, and Hakanpää goes with him, and then he just leaves an unmarked man all alone and gets a grade A chance on Ottinger. And fortunately, he was able to stuff it aside because, well, Otter was in net, and it ended up not killing them. But things like that, maybe it's due to the part that they are new together, and maybe they don't understand how certain guys, how they're going to play those certain types of situations. But I don't think it should matter who you're playing with. That's just pretty ordinary, right? I'll take the puck, you take the one without, and we'll mark them both, and we'll be just fine. But it wasn't as sloppy as I thought. I think I may have been a bit too harsh on that. It wasn't that sloppy, really, from both sides. The Stars, I mean, they did struggle to kind of connect passes, and they were slow through neutral a few times, but it wasn't, disgusting by any means. And they still got a ton of chances. And of course, a lot of the chances I think for both sides, were fed by the inability of clearing pucks out of your own end from both decors or just in general. The goal that the Stars gave up too, Hakanpää and Lindell were out, and I kind of mentioned that it was their fault, but really the problem was way up the ice at the other end of the rink. I think it was Craig Smith who, if you rewatch it, he comes in the left wing side, puts on the brakes right in front of the Stars bench, and then he gives it away at the blue line. He tries to make a rink wide pass to, I believe it was Dadonov or somebody coming down the far side, and eventually it gets picked off. And then the Stars are scrambling back because Smith and company also tried to work in a change. And by the time they got back and tried to get in their defensive posture, it ends up in the back of your net. So certain things like that, I noticed when I rewatched, and I was happy I went back because I was like, well, look, it's Lindell and Hakanpää, of course, are on the ice and they get scored on, but it really wasn't their fault. And they were trying to clean up what was an issue way up ahead of the ice. And of course, I get it. At the end of the day, they have to keep the puck out of their net, and you can be that way. But if the Stars limit that, because multiple times they're turning the puck over at the Blues blue line. I also took a look at the 4 power plays they had. They were 0 for 4. It was not a good night. They gave up 3 shots, and 2 of them, I believe, were 2-on-1s and pretty great chances. And fortunately, Otter again had to come up huge. So certain things like that, of course, need to be cleaned up. But they outshot the Blues 34-24, which is good. No surprise, they were better in the face-off dot, 52% there. And a credit to the Blues. They played really hard. They made it tough for the Stars to get shots through towards Binnington as well. Of course, Binnington was incredible, and he looked like himself from a few years ago. That didn't help. But they were conscious on getting in shooting lanes and not letting guys like Robo get great chances. And I believe Robo and Duchesne were held off the shots on goal department until overtime. Robertson didn't have a shot on goal until OT. And hopefully teams, of course, they're going to pick him out or individually shift their defense to him because of how great he is. But we saw that a bit in the Minnesota series, and hopefully nobody's beginning to kind of find a book on him, I guess you could say, so to speak. But when you've put up this many goals in your first 2 years, you're going to grab some attention, of course. I'm not worried by any means, but definitely something to look into. Miro played a really great game too on the back end, of course. Not much to complain about there. Just played under 28 minutes. He had 6 shots, and he missed on a few. He had a couple great chances from straight away, and really was the only great chances the Stars kind of had on the power play too was from Miro. A lot of perimeter work, couldn't get interior on St. Louis. And again, a credit to their penalty killing. Both penalty kills were really good. The Blues power play was nothing to jump up and down about. I think they were the worst road power play last year, and the Stars were great, and they have been for years. They pressure you in all areas in what you would say, I guess, kind of negative situations. If a guy's on his backhand, you pressure him and he can force it out, hopefully create the turnover there. And they took a lot of time and space away from St. Louis, at least on their man advantage. The Benn Johnston line really stood out. Of course, I mentioned that, and they reunited Dadonov with that line too. I did take a look at the Corsi numbers. I'm not huge into analytics. I'm trying to get into it a bit more. I don't need a ton of numbers, but I think it's interesting, and I want to see if I can kind of see where the correlation, because I guess, as you say, the numbers are part of the story. They don't tell you the whole thing. I'm more of an eye test kind of guy. But I think it is interesting, and it's useful to some degree. The Corsi percentage for the lines, I just took a look at the lines in general. The Jamie, Wyatt, Johnston, and Dellandrea line, 88% there. So they were really good. And it's funny, even the Dadonov line, when he got reunited, they were right below at 77. So those two lines were creating a lot of chances. And of course, that kind of takes in a whole picture of shots and plus minus and all that good stuff. And of course, Jamie Benn with a beautiful goal. Excellent move off the end wall. And it was perfect because that's what the Stars look like when they're at their best. A lot of forechecking. They got the puck in deep. Eventually, Dellandrea is able to work it down, and it finds Jamie Benn, and he makes just a power move right to the net. And the Blues were not ready for him to make that kind of power wraparound attempt. And he was able to beat Bennington in a beautiful goal. So I just wanted to touch a little bit more on the Stars Blues game, just because we have 4 days. Kind of sucks the way the schedule was put out, but the Stars could use it a couple days off too, because they'll have to be a bit cleaner, that's for sure, as they head into the Vegas Golden Knights game tomorrow night against a team that is 3-0. So it'll be a fun Western Conference Finals matchup or rematch, I should say. Let's go ahead and talk about Roope may be back. He practiced without restrictions, and how is that going to help the forward lines for the Dallas Stars? We will talk about that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Sleeper. The NHL season is finally here, Stars fans. It's what we've all been waiting for. I absolutely love the NHL, and I know you do too. That's why I have to tell you about the Sleeper app. The Sleeper app is the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network, and it's the go-to for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey. And the nice thing about it is, too, you don't have to worry about drafting at the beginning of the year and worrying about injuries and all that good stuff. Also, with the Sleeper app, you can win 100 times your cash on your daily fantasy. It's never been a more exciting time to be a fan of hockey. Bedard has showed up, Makar, Robertson, the Miro Heiskanens of the world. All you have to do is pick more or less on stats and stars. Like I said, and you heard me, you can get 100-time payout on Sleeper. So start paying attention and get your picks right, or you could win big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's Locked On NHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Alrighty, welcome back here on Locked On Stars. And what we've all been waiting for, Roope Hintz, is he finally back? We will find out a bit more information, of course, later on today when the Stars practice. I think they're doing a ton of team bonding, which is good. And it may have been perfect with this kind of 4 days break. Who doesn't like to bond in Vegas, right? I've never been, but I hear it's a great time to bond. I hear there's a lot of cool things to do. We'll see if that comes back to haunt the Stars. Hopefully they're not staying up too late at the tables, if you know what I'm saying. But go ahead and check out tomorrow's episode 2. We'll do a whole deep dive into VGK. Also, Locked On Rangers, those Texas Rangers just won game 1 of the ALCS over those Houston Astros. Big time win for the Rangers. Just 3 wins away from going back to a World Series. Can you believe it? So go ahead and take a listen over to Locked On Rangers and show them some love as they're trying to make a big, deep playoff run. Well, they already have. We've been spoiled in DFW, it seems like, the last 5 years, besides that other team, which we will not mention. But a lot of teams making the Western Conference Finals or Conference Championships, I should say. There you go. Okay. Roope Hintz may be back in perfect time. Of course, they've been extra cautious with him. He was a game time decision on Thursday, what it was. But of course, DeBoer said he is not going. But he did mention if it was a playoff game, he would have played. So just probably a little bruise, and they want to be cautious, which is nice. Because if it was one thing, especially from that Blues game, it was Sagan with Robo and Pavelski. It's a viable line, and it's still valuable, but it's just a completely different dynamic. And you have to also factor in that the Stars did not practice with that personnel or really have any meaningful hockey played with those different types of line combinations. So it was just all jumbled and it was a bit discombobulated, and it kind of showed for a little bit on the ice. But the encouraging thing was everything got better as the game wore on, which you would expect. And by the third, everybody seemed to be feeling out their roles just okay. But of course, the Stars are going to be better with Roope back in. 37 goals, of course, a season ago, and he's just so fast, and he just has that different dynamic. Arguably one of the best arguably the best player on the Stars with his all-around ability, with size, speed, and skill. He is very, very tough to watch and or tough to mark. And I think it opens up Robo as well. That's part of the reason why Robertson gets so many chances and he can be so deadly because, yeah, of course you have to worry about Robo, but when Rope's out there, I mean, he's the guy that can fly around. He's the one that can beat a whole team just galloping down the ice. And when you have that, it's just another layer that you have to try to defend, and it makes it very, very tough. So with Roope back, it'll be nice to start to find some stability up front. Then you can move Sagan back down. You have your Duchesne and Marchment line with that trio, which DeBoer was pretty encouraged with during training camp. So I can't wait to see that kind of in full flight too. And we'll see who comes out of the lineup. Steele played a really good game, I think. He probably bought himself some more time. That line in general, the Smith, Foxa, and Steele line had some really, really nice shifts in the first period, and they were able to settle things down. I think when the Stars were kind of going hectic, or when the Blues had some stretches where they were kind of dictating the play, they were able to respond, get some ozone time, and kind of settle things down, and then the Stars could regain their footing in the contest. So I think Steele did play his way into another lineup because someone eventually will have to come out. We'll see with Craig Smith. Foxa probably is for sure in. And I thought Delandry actually played a really nice game too. Picked up a point and an assist on the Benn goal. He probably just goes down to the fourth line, and you probably do Steele, Foxa, and Delandry. We'll see what they go with when Roope comes back, but he's going to be a huge, huge addition, and the Stars will be back to fully healthy. And hopefully he looks like Wyatt Johnston, who was just screaming around on opening night. So much for his little hip injury he had, because it did not slow him down one bit. He was arguably the best Stars player on Thursday. He looked really, really, really good. So with Roope coming back, just, of course, bring stability up front. You can reunite him with Hintz. And, well, of course, you're going to reunite with Hintz, Robertson and Pavelski, who both played pretty decent games. But he's just another element you have to watch out for. And I can't wait to see that top line at full flight, because they are the best line in the NHL. Okay, enough of that. Let's do a short preview into the VGK. I know some of you probably want me to do full episodes. I'll do it. I want to do it on Tuesday, just on game day. This 4 days off thing is weird. So weird. But hey, it's like the opening day for baseball when they play like on a Wednesday and then they wait like in between. They put a day in between till the second game. It's just not good. Anyways, but I digress. Let's talk about these Vegas Golden Knights, because there is no Stanley Cup hangover right now, and we'll get into that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by eBay Motors. eBay Motors, passion, drive, and patience. That's what brings home the winning trophy, and is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash with all the parts you need at the prices you want. It's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Final segment underway here on Locked On Stars. Thank you for all your love and support. Loved hearing your feedback, or maybe not feedback, but observations and comments on opening night. Very, very fun, entertaining night. If that's a bit of a precursor for what's to come this season, I think we're going to be in for a roller coaster ride. And it was fun that the Stars were able to get a win past 60 minutes, because it was a house of horrors last year. And I'm sure everybody was on their edge of their seat watching OT, because I certainly was, just waiting for someone to beat Otter by some miracle. It would have had to been, but that's what we saw last year. But these things have a funny way of evening out sometimes. One year you're just atrocious, and the other you're very, very good. So the Stars were able to get a big win. Alrighty, this Vegas Golden Knights team, just, it's not slowing down. Okay, it pains me to say it, but they're not slowing down. I mentioned that I was hoping for a bit of a Stanley Cup hangover. I mean, they are in Vegas, and well, they've come out firing on all cylinders. Granted, they have not played anybody of amazing stature, but they've done what you would expected playing teams like the Ducks and Sharks, and they handed the Kraken a nice 4-1 loss on opening night. But they beat up on the Sharks and Ducks as well. So they've all won their games by a score of 4-1. So they're not struggling to find the back of the net, and they're getting great goaltending. And of course, that was a huge reason why they went so deep last year. But they returned pretty much everybody, a lot of returners. That back end is so deep with Haig, Pietrangelo, Martinez. There was another guy when I was watching their game at the other night. Shea Theodore, that's another guy. Good Lord, they're just guy after guy that is really, really good. And they're really firing on all cylinders. So the Stars will have their hands full. It's a team, of course, that they're very versatile up front, and they're deep, man. They're so deep. They really have four lines, and you could tell that DeBoer was trying to make an emphasis on having depth, like actual depth, like VGK does, man, because they have four lines that can rock and roll, and they all play a different kind of style. And with Eichel and Marchessault, you have the high-end skill and ability to just break down defenses, and then their fourth line can just go to town and bruise you to death on the forecheck. And they chip in too offensively. These guys are not just out there to kill time, so to speak, and wear you down. They will make you pay if you make a mistake. And they're obviously are finding a lot of success early. So the Stars will have their hands full. I guess a key I would say for this game tomorrow night is they cannot turn pucks over in the neutral zone. That was a huge problem, especially a season ago, because this Vegas team will counter. They counter quickly, and they're going to go downhill on what I believe is going to be Jake Ottinger. Defensively, of course, they're so deep, and they're getting great goaltending again. I mean, if you get great goaltending from Adin Hill, who just seems to be riding on a high, they're going to be just fine. And I want to take a look at some of his numbers here too, just to give you an idea of how pretty stingy they have been. They haven't gave up a ton of shots either. That's part of the reason why that their goaltending has been so spectacular. And of course, like I said, they haven't played anybody great. I mean, except Seattle. I mean, Seattle's going to be a good team. They're off to a really slow start, but Hill in his 2 games, he stopped 54 or 56. That's a .964 save percentage, and he's just given up 2 goals. And Logan Thompson was good in the game he started too. He went 22 of 23 the other night. So they have a good goalie tandem. And of course, Logan Thompson was their number one for the majority of last season. And he started the playoff run, I believe. And then Adin Hill kind of came in and stole the show. So very, very durable netminders, of course, who are off to really good starts. The Stars will more than likely be their toughest opponent. And of course, we're still so early on this season, but they're poised to do it again. I mean, they really are. And it'll be a great test. It'll be a great test because if we think we know where this team is, this will kind of tell us. And I know it's the second game of the season and you're like, come on, but hey, sometimes you have these measuring sticks and I don't think it matters when it happens in the year. I want to see it. I want to see you put the product on the ice that you have been barking all summer and kind of the theme of the season and you've been trying to instill into these guys. Are we there? Are we to that level to win a Stanley Cup? That's what I want to see. And it'll be great to start that tomorrow night. And we'll see how they face off against the Vegas Golden Knights. We're going to touch on them a lot more tomorrow. So please tune in tomorrow. Thank you so much for making this your first listen of the day. Go ahead and subscribe. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. So hit that notification bell to never miss an episode. It's going to be a wild ride this season. So I'm excited to have you on board. Continue to grow this community almost to 2,000 subscribers. I kind of hit a goal. Let's try to hit 2,000 by the end of the month. So we're rocking and rolling in November. Let's try to do it. Thank you guys so much for joining me today on Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. That will do it today. Stars and Vegas Golden Knights going at it tomorrow night. Game number 2 on the season. Stars are 1-0 with a 2-1 shootout victory. It's all changing, baby, for the Dallas Stars past 60 minutes. Let's hopefully they can close it down in regulation tomorrow night. But we will see you tomorrow. We'll talk more VGK and Stars. Thank you so much once again, and have a wonderful rest of your day. So long, Stars fans.